So far we looked at how to create pages and posts, how to share files, and last but not least, let's create tables and charts. Now there are many ways to do this. First one would be to simply add a list of numbers and use images, for instance, create images with charts in it. Basically, or share an Excel file with both tables and charts. We could do that, and that works. But using images to create charts, the problem is that if every time we want to update those charts, we have to recreate a new image, and it takes some time. And when you have to update your charts every month, well, after a while you get a bit bored. So we could use tables directly in pages or posts. Displaying tables directly in pages is a great way to disseminate statistical data directly to users without having them to download a document or read through a long report. So basically, you open a page and there's a table right there with key numbers. We will go through example later on, but it's also a great way to keep updating your website, because every time you update your table within the page, search engines such as Google, when they go back to your website, they realize that you have updated your page, and so again you go up in the ranking system. So not only it's very user-friendly, because your visitors will see your data right away, but also it's good for SEO. You can quickly access. You have a quick access to data when there's a table within the page. And it's easy to read, providing you have done a simple table. Like everything, if it gets too complex, then it can be difficult to read. And it indexed by search engine. Below here, you have a screenshot from French Polynesia NSO, where there's a page with on the left a little description about CPI, and on the right there you have a table. We can actually open the page. Here you see I'm browsing the website by topics, and I went to CPI, and then here's a table right inside the page, and they have added charts, but those are images. And this is something we should tell them to improve. I'm saying this, but there are other pages where they have all they need. So the cons about using tables directly in page is that it works well with simple data. If you want to display a big amount of data, then it gets messy. It's quite time-consuming to create them. It can be, but we have solutions for that. We'll look into that later on. And we have responsiveness issues with responsive design. You remember what responsive design is? If you look at a website using a smartphone or a tablet or different size of screens, well, we will make sure that your website adapts itself and resize. And if you have something in 2-3 columns, they move around, so it's still readable under any device. But for tables, it's not as easy to make a table responsive, and we often end up with horizontal scroll bars, which it's not really easy to use. I'm going quickly through the basic tables we can integrate with WordPress without using any plugin. So, for instance, Gutenberg editor by default already allows you to create tables, like the one you see here. This is how it looks like in the editor. Basically, you just create number of rows and columns that you want. You can always add or delete those rows or columns as you wish. And once displayed in a page, well, it looks like this. So as you can see, it's pretty similar to what we have in the backend. This way to create tables is very lightweight, very easy to use because it's very basic. But you really don't have much options. You cannot, for instance, here you can see everything is aligned on the left, simply because I cannot do it differently. I cannot, if I want to show numbers aligned on the right, as you would do normally, but I can't. So it's really basic. Still, if it works for you, well, do use this because the simple it is to use, the easier it is and the fastest you create tables. So you can still look at this option. Be aware that you cannot copy and paste or import from an Excel sheet or any other kind of table. So you have to create everything manually, and you cannot merge cells, and you cannot select more than one cell at a time. So if you want to change the style, making something italics like this header, I had to go one by one. So, all right, it's very limited. So Joom United, our favorite editor, has created an advanced table for Gutenberg. So it's really inside. It's really well integrated in WordPress, and at the beginning it works exactly the same. You create a simple table, you add or remove any cell you want. It's still pretty lightweight and easy to use, but you have more options, and you can see on the right, that you can. Here I've selected a table, and I can already add a header in a row or a footer, or I can change the style of borders. If I select one, or actually I can select this time more than one cell, I can select many cells at once, and I can change the colors, the borders, the way it's aligned this time. I can change if it's on the right, for instance. So it just adds a little more, and actually it fits pretty well most of the needs. You can still not copy or paste or import data. So if you start your website from scratch and you have a lot of tables to create, maybe not the best options. You can still not merge cells, so your tables are still very basic. I said no multi-cell selection, that's wrong, you can. And buggy definitely is. So maybe we have to wait a bit more before we use that, because I've made an example this morning. Sorry. I think it's on CPI. Here you go. This is the basic table using the standard table block in Gutenberg. This is an advanced table. So I obviously copy and pasted a few things. You can merge cell, you can change, you can add headers, and you can align numbers this time. You see these are aligned on the right. The only thing is that if I edit this post, well, I can edit my basic table, but I can't edit my advanced table again anymore. So it's definitely a bug that they need to fix. Nice try. Yeah, okay. Yeah, merge cells, headers, and cell alignment. And this is how it looks, how the basic table looks and how the advanced table looks. Now, this is all still very simple and very basic. We might want a lot more when using tables. So we installed the Tables by Supsystic plugin. There are many plugins available, and I tried them almost all of them. I skipped the one that obviously were not good enough, but I tried quite a few, and this one seems the most advanced, stable, and had some great features that which I will list later on. WP data tables were a great candidate as well. But anyway, Supsystic keeps improving the plugin. I know that Anna, for instance, have been using it for almost a year. Because you started 1 year. En octobre, tu as essayé? Tu as commencé? November, September, okay. Almost a year, and we just updated to the next version, the latest version, and we have seen it was really good already, and we've seen lots of good improvements in the latest version. So it's a very good sign for keep using a website. And a great feature about this one is that you can import data from a CSV or an Excel file or even a Google spreadsheet. What does this mean? Well, it means that you can, if you already have a list, Excel sheets, instead of recreating them by hand, you just import them, and it creates a table that you can then integrate directly on the page. So within a few clicks, you create tables, and you can even go a step further. You can keep using your Excel sheet when you want to edit, so you don't even have to go to your WordPress backend. And every time you just synchronize your Excel sheet with the tables. And it definitely provides a lot of great features. Basically, when you edit a table from the backend, it really works like if you were on Excel, except that you don't have formulas. But you can copy and paste, move things around. So as I said, you can import from an Excel sheet. You can synchronize with Google Sheets. Of course, you can merge cells. You have tons of styling options. And when you add a table in a page, you can also offer your users to download it in CSV, Excel, or even PDF format. So let me show you an example that we did. Non, c'est en papier. Well, for instance, here I have a table. You can see I have different headers, and table gets pretty big. I can edit the table directly in the backend. And if I go to the settings, you can see I have quite a few options there. And I can say, here I want people to be able to download by CSV, by Excel, and PDF, or even print the table. Here, a great thing also, and it's a new improvement from the last version, is that every time you update your options here, you directly see how it looks like. And here it's at the top. I prefer to have those links at the bottom. There you go. And you can also add a watermark on your PDFs or a logo when they are downloaded. So when someone downloads a table in a PDF, well, you make sure that your logo is in there, and it's all automatic. You don't have to create them manually. Let's save this and see how it looks there. When you load, there you go. So here, let's try the PDF option. There you go, my table in a PDF. Actually, probably the table is probably too big. No, it's good. Or in Excel. So this adds more feature. And by the way, this table, I created it in Excel, in an Excel sheet, which is this one first, and I just imported it, and it worked right away. So that's you can imagine how much time you gain with this. Sorry. Oops. Sure, there are some drawbacks. Again, with any table you want to integrate in your pages, well, keep them simple. There are still some responsive issues, especially when you use merge cells. In general, it makes things a lot more complicated when you start to merge some cells. So try to avoid that if you can. And also, there are some issues with number formatting. I can demonstrate that later. Well, this is a plugin that we pay to have in the network sites, the network of sites that we've set up. We do have access to support because we pay for it. So these issues, I report them, and so I hope that they will fix it as we go along. And by the way, if you start using this and any other plugins that we have, and we have added in your site, please report any bugs, anything you can see, any problems you see, because then we create a ticket and they can fix it. Well, we had a quick look already on how it looks. As you can see here at the top, there are quite a few options. Most of them you are already very familiar with, like bold, italics, and font size, etc. Those are really specific buttons where you can actually add different kind of content directly into cells. You can add images, for example. This you will do using those icons, or you can add a list in a cell. It's basically a bit of advanced format. In our case, using this purely to disseminate data, I don't think we use those specific formats, but feel free to have a look. Here is just some of the options that we have when it comes to table settings. So we have, as you can see, we can decide if we have a footer or a header on table. Fixed columns, meaning we don't want them to be resized depending on the fixed columns is also when we have a large table, then we can say we want to fix the first column to be always there. Bit like freezing cells in Excel. It's exactly the same thing. If your table is simple enough, it works well. And as I said, if you start to have merge cells, then it can be a bit buggy. You can enable sorting and pagination and even search. So if you have a large table, you might want that in a specific page, for instance. Well, you can allow your visitors to, just by clicking on columns, to resort the whole table. That can be useful for, anything. I guess imagine you have a table listing. I like this example. I'll always come back to this, but I'm sure we all have this. CPI, then you can see the evolution of the CPI. You can order it by date, so you can see if it goes up or down at any point. But if you want to know when it was at the biggest, for instance, well, you can sort it by its value, and then you quickly see in what year it was biggest. Well, we all know what sorting is. It might be interesting to allow your users to use this. And then appearance here. Yes, one thing, responsive mode. They offer 4 modes. Basically, leave the standard responsive, which is the default at first. Try it out. And if you see that when you resize your browser window, it gets all messy, then either use a different option or simply disable it. Disable responsiveness. Appearance, well, I guess pretty self-explanatory. We have all sorts of options here to make your table look different. And as I said before, the great thing here is that you can play with your settings. You go in Settings tab here. You can change the settings. So I'm going to Appearance. What does compact table means? I click it, and you see the difference right away. You have a direct preview of the results. As you can see, compact table, it's good if you have very large table and you don't want it to take too much space. Then it's the rows are narrower. Whoop. And table loader, just for your information, when we load a table on the page, it first shows a little animation here, you can disable it. If the page is not too big, just disable it. It will be actually quicker to load. I tend to disable it all the time anyway. Language options, you can, you probably won't need to touch any of these, but you can have a look. Here you go. Don't forget to save anytime you make a change. If you want to create similar tables, or you can always clone them and then just update the one you've newly created. So to import, you just click here. And what else? What else? Well, when you're happy with the way it looks, like everything else what we've talked about since the beginning of the week, try to be consistent. You found a style, you're happy with it. Every table you create after that, try to use the same style. Make it look the same. It's easier on the eye, and it's easier for. It's way better for your users. Now, one last thing about this plugin is charts. I have a table here. I have a table here. Now, how about creating a chart directly from that? Well, you've seen this tab. You may have noticed this tab diagram. If you click on it right away, it quickly explains you how it works. Do select the data and then click on the Add Diagram button. So let's go back to our table. Let's select our data. Same as you do the same way you would do on Excel. You hit the Shift key while you select the first and the last cell. When you're happy with selection, you click on the diagram button, which is this one, and it lets you choose the type of diagram you want. In this case, I have a time series of multiple indicators, so it looks like the line chart will be the best choice. Because my table has quarters in columns and indicators type of data in rows, well, the default setup doesn't work for me because that's not what I want. I want the quarters to be in the x-axis. So let's switch rows and columns. Right away, you can have a preview of your results, so you can keep playing around. What else? Well, actually, I want my first row, which I selected, to be labels of my indicators. And I want them to be shown in the legend. So there you go. So the global CPI here is on this line. Well, probably a wrong color, but yeah, it's not the same color. But as you can see, you have all different indicators, and it's all by quarter. I should probably add the year here, so something we can change later on. But basically, I just made a few clicks, and I have a chart. I create it, and now under my tabs, my diagram tab, I have the chart, and if I want to add this into my a page or a post, I just need to use this shortcode. We have mentioned shortcodes before. Do you remember what it is? Shortcode, things that looks like this. Anyway, let's. I'll give you an example. So now, I go back to my list of tables, and this is the one that I've just created. Let's copy this. So this is the shortcode for the table. Let's go to my page, to page, more posts. Let's say the latest CPI post. This one. Well, I've already added this, but let's do it again. Let's get rid of the other tables. I'll keep the basic one as an example. Sorry. Here you go. So I can add just a paragraph or directly what we call a shortcode block. But even if I add a paragraph and I just paste my shortcode here and I update and I go back to my posts, then you can see the table is here with all the options that I've previously set it up. And let's say I want to add my chart below that. Well, I copy the shortcode here, which I can copy, I think, up. And in my post, I add this shortcode. And there. Well, it's not tall enough for me, so I can go back to the settings and change them. But you get the idea. It was really easy to just to add a new chart in a page, starting from the table. And if I edit the table and add the next CPI information, then everything is updated right away. So it's a great way to disseminate that. Now I've put the table and the charts one under another. If you look at some other websites, such as StatsNZ, for instance, you can see that when you go to a topic, statistics topic, they show the chart right away, and they use tabs to navigate from a chart to the table, which is something we can do also using DV, and it's a pretty good way to disseminate your data. They've put chart first, well, most probably because it's a lot easier to read and to have a good overview of the data at first. And if you want to go to details, then you just click on the table. So if you feel like it, you can do this also just by creating tabs and then adding shortcode for table in one tab, shortcode for chat in the other tab. That's great.